Welcome to Live the Dream with yours truly, Marty Kaiser. Buckle up and let's get started. Happy Tuesday. This is Marty Kaiser with our Tuesday edition of Real Estate Tidbits. We've had a couple-week hiatus from our podcast. I did mention before I left for vacation that we were going to take a week off. Unfortunately, I went on a family cruise, which we had a great time, but toward the end of the cruise, actually, the day before we were going to disembark, I got a little bit of a scratchy sore throat, nothing major. And then the next day I was feeling a little worse. And of course, once I got home, I started feeling not very good. And I'm very rarely sick. I never miss work. But I had symptoms that possibly could have been COVID. And so I took a COVID test, and we had an old COVID test kit, and none of the results were kind of indeterminate, but I treated it as COVID, and I had a lot of head congestion and heavy coughing, especially the first few days after we got back, and I didn't want to put anybody at risk that I work with, so I chose to stay home and worked out of the house, but I just wasn't in the mood to do a podcast, and my throat sounded weird talking. So anyway, that's what I did. As an aside, I'm kind of a germaphobe to a degree, so I get all the vaccinations. I know that cruises are higher risk for getting sick from being on them because you got, we go on these big new Royal Caribbean ships, and they have 6,000 or 7,000 people on them. So you do come in contact with a lot of people. And obviously, with that many people, some people are going to have some kind of problem medically. And the thing with me is I got the newest COVID shot, but because of all the irregularities with our government and COVID shots and Governor DeSantis here with this, the doctor that he's appointed as the head of our Health and Human Services in Florida, being an anti-vaxxer, and really, I think you've heard me mention this, the guy in Florida is a quack. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was hard getting any COVID shot. They didn't have any policy, so none of the major providers were giving out shots. So anyway, I finally got it the first day it came out. It was just kind of dumb luck that I found they were giving them. But that was about 3 or 4 days before we sailed. And from my research, they really don't take full effect for 10 to 14 days after you get the shots. Now, whether I had COVID, I'll probably never know for sure. If you hear me talking today, my sound quality is still not 100%. So I'll probably cut this podcast a little bit shorter today. But that's the reason why we haven't had the podcast for a couple weeks, and I do apologize for that. But we're back. So we're back to twice a week, and of course, that's on Tuesday and Fridays. A couple things I'll go over today. Real estate-wise, as you probably are following, the interest rates have come down a little bit. The average rate nationally right now, give or take, is about 6.3%. So that's about 0.5% or so down from where it was at the first part of this year. The rates are still jumping around a little bit because, as you know from living in our world, we have a lot of unusual things that have gone on. The Middle East crisis hopefully is improving now. And if we get a peace agreement, hopefully that'll be good for things. On the flip side, the China tariff war with the United States may pick up demonstrably, and we'll see what kind of effect that has. I won't go into the nuances of that because it's fairly involved, and it's a question of whose versions of what you believe. Unfortunately, with our government nowadays, you have to take everything with a grain of salt that they tell you, because a lot of it is very one-sided in terms of how things are viewed rather than a more subjective viewpoint from middle ground. Regarding the economy as well as real estate, Again, it's a mixed bag. Some people feel that the economy it has done, given the circumstances, okay, and they're cautiously optimistic about 2026. Other people feel that we've got all the earmarks of a recession. I myself, as you know, I'm fairly opinionated, but I'm not going to give you a big opinion on the economy right now because I think there's just so many variables going on that it's really speculative to make a prediction on that. The thing I will say regarding real estate, if you're in a position to buy or sell real estate, I wouldn't delay. I think now is a really good time still to do that. Combining, of course, that the interest rates have gone down a little bit. Also, you're not competing with as many buyers as you do during peak times. Inventory levels are still erratic. They're really neighborhood specific as well as business in a particular neighborhood. For example, I talk a lot about Hunters Creek because I do a lot of business in Hunters Creek. And Hunters Creek's one of the bigger communities in Central Florida and always has a lot of sales activity in it. And over the past 18 months, basically all of 25, and actually about the last 21 months and the first 9 months of 2026, transactions have been down from what they were during the peak years of this decade, 2021, 22, and most of 23, were extremely busy years. And things leveled off, as I've indicated in previous podcasts. So business definitely, transaction level went down in 2024, excuse me. And it's pretty much, in Hunters Creek anyway, maintained a steady course. It's within 5% of each year. Basically, in Hunters Creek, through the end of September, it's pretty much averaging, depending on what month of the year you're addressing, probably 10 to 15 sales a month have taken place in Hunters Creek on single-family homes. I focus more of my statistical emphasis on single-family homes. Obviously, they do sell condos and townhomes in Hunters Creek as well, and that's a separate field for transactions. Townhouses in Hunters Creek are always very strong. There's continually very few townhomes for sale, so when they do come on the market, they typically will sell pretty quickly, and they sell for very good prices. The last few townhomes that were for sale in Hunters Creek, the owners, in my opinion, were a little bit unrealistic about their true value, and they didn't sell. But that was because they were priced significantly over their market value. If they had priced them where they should have been, they would have gotten a healthy return and probably sold them quickly. But because they came up with very inflated prices, they sat. The condo market in Hunters Creek overall has been very soft in 2026 due to three things, really. There's been an inventory glut. The HOA fees have gone up significantly in several of the neighborhoods, and that gives people pause when they evaluate the purchase price and factor in the HOA fees. And thirdly, the units have all started to show their age a little bit. Most of the condos in Hunters Creek were built between 1997 and 2001. So give or take, they're about 25 years old. And while that's not old, it's old in the sense that a lot of the unit owners of the condos have not made significant improvements to their units. So the properties that have been updated significantly, they tend to fare much better, both in terms of getting better selling prices and, of course, selling more rapidly. But the ones that have a lot of original things in them, when people evaluate what they have and don't have, and then they factor in what's been selling in there, and they factor in the HOA fees, it's definitely caused the condo market to slow down. I've sold a few condos in there this year, but I take a very aggressive approach in my marketing and pricing of them. And I think that's been one of the main reasons why we've maintained our successful foothold. I'm very frank with the sellers because there's no point in putting a unit for sale, given the market trends and variables in there, when I know they're not going to sell. So I'll give the people a frank estimate. It's based with a lot of experience and a lot of data and a lot of trend analysis. And so for the sellers that agree with me, we've had very good success, especially compared to all the other ones that are sitting. And the ones that don't agree with me, I politely would decline their listings. And that's the way I do business. As you've heard me over the past year plus that I've had this podcast, I'm nothing if not frank. So I'll try to share my expertise, my opinions, all the data, and I'll paint a realistic picture. I'll give a best case scenario, I'll give a worst case scenario. And I'll tell the people how I can achieve their objectives for the best result with a detailed blueprint that I've put together. And so fortunately, I've achieved very good results. And the sellers that feel comfortable following my course of action, we've had a tremendous success rate with that. So that's a little bit about real estate. I'll briefly go into sports, because I always like talking about sports. In baseball, we're in the American and National League final round of playoffs. In the American League, the Seattle Mariners have taken a 2-0 lead over Toronto. Seattle won the first two games in the Toronto Stadium, so they're in a commanding position to win the series. In my opinion, Seattle is a little bit better team. They've got a little bit more star power on that team, and they're led by their catcher, Cal Raleigh, who's having just a phenomenal year. It'll either be him or Aaron Judge for the most valuable player in the American League. And I personally think, due to the fact that he plays catcher, which is an extremely demanding and important position, that he deserves the MVP. Judge has had a great year also, but if it was up to my vote, I'd give it to Cal Raleigh. In the National League, we have the defending champions, the Los Angeles Dodgers, playing the Milwaukee Brewers. The Dodgers won a close, tightly contested game 2-1 last night, and that was game one of the series. And that was played in Milwaukee. So the Dodgers, that was a big win for the Dodgers. I make the Dodgers a little bit of a favorite in this series. I just think they have the best talent, and they've certainly paid a lot of money to accumulate that talent. Milwaukee had the best team season this year in the National League, but I feel as the Dodgers get a little healthier, and they've been getting healthy, I think they'll win in a pretty contested series. The Dodgers' main strength are two things: star power and their starting pitching. They have Shohei Ohtani, who's probably arguably the greatest player that's ever played baseball. When you combine his prolific batting skills and home run power along with his pitching skills, we haven't had that combination of skills to this degree since Babe Ruth, and that was back in the 19-teens, so that was over 100 years ago. And, of course, baseball was less competitive then as well. Ohtani's just continuing to do phenomenal feats. And the Dodgers' starting pitching staff has done just tremendous. They're actually led by two distinct groups of pitchers. Two of their top pitchers were ex-Tampa Bay Ray pitchers, Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow. And unfortunately, Tampa is a tremendously well-run club, but their stadium location and their lack of capitalization has caused them up to this point. Every time a player gets to a certain level, they have to pretty much trade them because they can't afford to keep them. They just got new ownership. The deal just went through this past month. So we'll see how that impacts them. They desperately need a new stadium. I don't know why they haven't moved to Orlando. The team would have been so much more successful in Orlando. There's a perfect stadium location between here and Tampa. But nonetheless, I think part of that's due to our political structure in Orlando hasn't been aggressive enough in really backing a stadium effort. But it's been a little disappointing to me because I think it would have been great for not only our civic pride, but I think it would have been great for the economy. I think it would have even helped the theme parks. But nonetheless, they haven't been able to convince anybody of that up to this point. Football, we're just past the third waypoint of the NFL season. It's pretty wide open this year. You can make an argument for a lot of teams. I would say up to this point, if I had to give a slight edge to any team, I would probably say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been the best team in football. They've won a lot of close games, but they've had a ton of injuries. Their quarterback, Baker Mayfield, has played phenomenally this year. Hopefully, if these injured players can come back, Tampa will be a strong contender the rest of the year. I think besides Tampa, I think the Kansas City Chiefs, as they get healthier, are still going to be a dominant player in the NFL. And there's other teams that are competitive. It's really too early to tell because there's a lot of parity in the NFL, so we'll just have to wait and see. The NBA basketball season starting in the next 2 weeks, so that should be an interesting year. The defending champion Oklahoma Thunder are the preseason favorites, and deservedly so. The hometown team, the Orlando Magic, knock on wood, look like they may have a solid team this year, and we'll keep our fingers crossed because it would be great if they maintain more relevance in the basketball arena. That's all for today. I hope everyone's doing well. This little bit of not a cold breeze, but a little bit cooler weather has been a welcome addition to Central Florida. Everybody stay safe. Again, if you have any questions about real estate or anything I can provide you whatsoever, feel free to contact me, Marty Kaiser, at 407-595-9700, or you can email me at marty@floridasells.com. This is Marty Kaiser out.